So welcome to Google and Beyond. A lot of Google, some Beyond. We're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Deb Fishman. I'm the second. I'm a fifth grade teacher in Rye, New York, and have started to really use a lot of the technology in my classroom.
I'm Kaitlyn Sassone. I'm the coordinator of instructional technology for the Rye City School District, and I worked K-12 with our administrators, teachers, and students on implementing technology into curriculum. So today we're going to really focus on the Google applications within our district. We're a K-12 Google Apps school. We've been for about 2 years now, and we're going to really highlight some of the apps and tools that we're using. Most of them are on the screen up here, but there are some and beyond that we will show in a little bit. But as a district, we've moved to Google, I would say, in the past 2 years, which has been a great experience for us because it allows us to pull away from just our file share and our network within district and really bring in that collaboration piece outside. So all of our faculty and staff have access to our domain. We have since last April transferred all of our staff and faculty members to our Gmail account, which has been great, moving our email systems. Our students, for the first time ever this year, have access to email, which is phenomenal. So in our 6-12, we allow those students to have access. We keep it closed within 6 through 8, so that's an internal environment where they can just collaborate and email each other. But then starting at grade 9, you can move outside of the domain and email out. Some of the productivity tools that we use, we're heavily in Google Docs and Sheets and Forms, slides and drawing and calendar, and then this year we really started to tackle some of these add-ons and Google Sites that are available. Another big push for us this year was moving our learning management system and really trying to hone in on Google Classroom and have our teachers and students experience that environment. So that has been a really big push for us. And then just to show that we use Google Calendar to sign out all of our tech equipment, which is great because our teachers log in with their phones, their mobile devices, and they get to see where the equipment is and they can easily access it. Before we go deeper in conversation with Google Apps, it's funny actually, this morning David did this whole piece on SAMR, and that's a really big push for us and something that we're really looking at in ways that we can infuse technology into teaching and learning. So when we work with teachers and we talk about implementing educational technology, we go through these steps to determine at the substitution level, what are we doing? And really that's okay to start at that level for some of our teachers who have never dove into educational technology. They may be scared to go and try something. So we will start at that substitution level for some people. We'll take a look at seeing, can I move away from the normal paper and pencil model, and then can I dive into using a laptop, using a Chromebook, and really getting embedded into that. Going up the ladder and making it a little more functional, going into augmentation, and then above that, modification, and where my counterpart is, I'd say at this age, is redefinition, where she takes her normal lessons and things that she would do for 15 years now, and she's really redefined what that looks like in her classroom. So this has been a big model for us to look at when we're incorporating technology into what we're doing. And again, just the SAMR model, so it's really to look at our progression in education and technology and where we're moving to. People can argue that a certain activity may be in between one of those models, but the main thing is to remember that it's about the learning that's taking place with the student and the engagement that brings along what you're doing with that technology. It's not about the application. We can all use several applications. In this day and age, it's about the task and how we're going to redefine the learning and the conversations and the collaboration that take place in that classroom. So here's just a quick video.
This is the SAMR model in 120 seconds. The SAMR model is a framework that provides a lens for viewing technology integration in the classroom. The first level is substitution, or the idea that a block is a block no matter where it is or how you access it. This would be like using Google Docs as any other word processor. The new tech replaces the old tech, but it does not change the task. The next level is augmentation. At this level, the tech is still a substitute, but provides more functionality as students work to complete the same task. The ability to share your Google Doc in one click and the fact that it saves to the cloud automatically and provides you access from anywhere is an increase in functionality. The next level is modification. Here the ball really gets rolling because the technology is used to redesign parts of the task and transform student learning. Students collaborating on one Google Doc and using the comment feature to provide instant feedback is an example of modification. The final level of SAMR is redefinition. At this level, we're able to design and create new tasks that were once unimaginable. By shifting our perspective from technology just being another block or substitute, we're able to truly start imagining the possibilities. An example of redefinition would be connecting to a classroom across the world through students sharing Google Docs. They would each write their own narrative of the same historical event, using the chat and comment section to discuss the differences. Then students would use the Voice Comments app to discuss the differences they noticed and embed this in their class website as a culture walk. To recap, substitution is the same task, new tech replaces old tech. Augmentation is the same task, but the tech increases functionality. Modification, we're able to redesign parts of the task. Redefinition, we're able to create new tasks once unimaginable. As we move from substitution to redefinition, we're moving from enhancing to transforming student learning. This is the SAMR model, and SAMR model in 120 seconds. The SAMR model is a framework that provides a lens for viewing technology integration in.
There we go. Okay. And then just as we went through that before, this is something that really even Deb looks at when she's planning her lessons again. So what will I gain by replacing this technology into the lesson? How does the technology add features, and how does it improve the task? Does this task significantly change the use of the tech? And then, where we want to get to at the very end, does the tech allow us to create something that was unconceivable, that we never thought of before, and we're really going one step beyond what we would do traditionally? Some ways in which, and this is more on a global perspective, that we're going to look at how we connect Google Apps in our school district on a K-12 model before we jump into specifically a 5th grade classroom, is that teachers are using Google Apps and Classroom to create and post assignments and announcements, so they have that collaboration piece. They're able to access their emails and talk to students at any time. We constantly post between teachers and students, or teachers and teachers, resources and syllabuses and videos and websites to help improve instruction. We assess students using our Google Forms and even use a Flubru add-on for grading, which is a quick way for teachers to have these assessments graded for them. We add and invite and remove students, so teachers have that ownership of who's in their classroom and what they're doing to utilize the technology. We have the ability to have ongoing conversations in and outside of school, and we also use it to post instructional videos. So if a student goes home and needs some assistance with homework or things like that, our teachers, or one that I have here today, will create videos of herself to post examples of what the lesson looks like and how to go through that step process, so the students then can be successful and accomplish it later on. From a student perspective and how they're connecting with Google Apps is, again, they're able to access announcements and resources at any time of the day. They're able to share and collaborate on assignments. They do much more peer editing with these productivity tools. They're able to post questions at any time and ask their teachers, who will answer at any time, how can I help you? What can I assist with? They locate references constantly using the tools feature and research in Google Apps. They correspond with their teachers on a daily basis. They're able to view materials, check grades and comments for feedback. They're able to see when their work is overdue and when something needed to be submitted if they were out. And then they contribute to classroom streams and discussions constantly. So it's really been an eye-opener to have them really embed themselves in their learning and be more facilitators than just the ones that would sit behind the desk and have the teacher in the front of the classroom. They're taking ownership of what they're doing. And now we're going to kind of take a jump into, and I'll let Deb take over in terms of what she's doing and how it's impacted her students.
So 3 years ago, I went back to the classroom after being out for 6 years and was overwhelmed with the new technology that was out there. So what I started out doing, I didn't know anything about SAMR. I just started out, let's see where the technology is, where we're starting from. I didn't know anything about Google Apps, but we started slowly. Kaitlyn and I had worked together when I was a staff developer. So this is my classroom before I started really using technology. I was always at the copy machine. You know, I was transporting work back and forth with a flash drive. If I left something at school, I never saw it until I got back to school. I couldn't get it at home. I wrote down websites for kids to use for resources and reference material. And I used a lot of worksheets. And I collected a lot of notebooks and journals and took them back and forth and hurt my back and like everybody else. So now the transformation is, you know, I say to the kids, we've gone green. There's no paper. I could literally get rid of the desks now because they do mostly everything on Google Apps. And so what started as just like, Ms. Fishman, could we keep our log online? I was like, yes, we can. And so they started to ask me questions, like, could we do this online? Could you upload that graphic organizer and put it online? And I was like, I can. And so they started to take responsibility of their own learning, which was unbelievable, and make it easier for me and them to do a lot of things. So when I say I don't go to the copy machine, I don't go to the copy machine. I mean, if there's, you know, water cooler talk and copy machine talk, I don't know about it. I very seldom use my printer. So everything is back and forth online. I don't even have to use my flash drive. I don't have to remember where I put my flash drive because I can access everything on my Google Drive. And so that's been life-changing for me. I send notes home. I have a kid right now who is up in Killington at ski school. She's a competitive skier. We communicate online. And so she can send me her work, I can send her new work, and it's unbelievable. I was kidding around this morning during the presentation, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I see myself at home teaching in my pajamas because that's the next phase of this.
There we go.
Yeah. So this is just something I put together to talk about the different components that I use in my classroom. And I'll give you a little bit of a history. So we started out using Google Docs solely as word processing, and it turned into me being able to give immediate feedback. You'll see I have examples of some of the work that I've done with my kids, but immediate feedback on their logs, on morning work, on anything that they're doing online, which is pretty much everything. Now they have a portfolio, a file folder of all of their work. I had the opportunity to loop with my kids, so they have 2 years now of work, and they go back to the beginning of time in 4th grade, and they're like, I used to write really poorly. Look at my writing now. And I'm like, that's correct. So they can reflect on their own learning and set goals for themselves, which is unbelievable. Homework help, I share websites with them on Google Docs. I share things that we've done during the day, notes that we've taken, anchor charts. I can capture it on my smartboard, send it to them, and it helps them do their work at home. Really unbelievable. I send them the math pages at home, so I never have to hear, I forgot my math book in school. How often do you hear that? And you're like, no, you know, only if your internet is down you can not do the homework. So there's all these ways that have eliminated all the back and forth with books and tests, and you know, the kids can work together on sharing documents. They write scripts, they do book clubs, they do different things where they share the document and they input and comment on each other's work and peer edit. On the interactive presentations and assessments, so this has transformed my life as well. Google Forms, I give all my tests on Google Forms or on Nearpod, and I'll talk about Nearpod also, but Google Forms, the kids are like, it's not a test if it's on Google Forms. Like it's on the computer, so it's not really a test. So they take it, I get their results in a Google Sheet sent to me. I don't have to take tests home. I know what their answers are. I can see everybody, and I can see what answers most of the kids missed. Was there a pattern? Are they missing certain things? It's, transformed the way I collect data. So it's amazing. Quizzes, surveys, who do you want to work with on your next project? What are you thinking about doing? I can do all that on Google Forms. Google Sheets, so we do a lot of science, we collect data. They did an experiment at the beginning of the year on how many drops of water will fit on a penny. They collected their data, they put it in Google Sheets, and then I showed them how to make a graph from their data, and they were like, wow, can we do this with everything? This is amazing. So they were collecting data on their own to do that just because they wanted to see the graph and the chart. Then they could share with each other and see who got the most pennies, who got the most drops of water on a penny. But again, amazing, and that came from them because they wanted to explore using charts and seeing charts in action. Nearpod is, I have a slide at the end, but I'll talk a little bit about it. I first started to get into using the computer, using Nearpod, which was an interactive software. It's free. You can create your own presentations, and you can do them whole class, or you can send them for homework. And so you can embed videos, pictures, there's thoughts, there's multiple choice. All that data, just like in Forms, gets recorded, and you can get a report on how every student did. So that was amazing, but Google Forms I think is even easier because then you can access it from anywhere and see it and transfer it into other Google apps. The other thing that I use a lot, you'll see this at the end, is movies. So a lot of video that we use online, I send it to them at home for reminders. Some of it's new, some of it's not new, but just things that I think might help them with whatever concept. So especially when we're doing abstract concepts like in math, and they're, the first go round, some of them are not really understanding how to divide fractions. And I'm not explaining it well enough to every kid. I put on a YouTube video, I show it, they're like, oh, why didn't you just say that, Miss Fishman? Now I understand it. And so it's another voice, another way of explaining those abstract concepts, and then they have them at home when they're doing homework to reflect upon. So that's been amazing. One of the other things that we do also is we make movies. So, this has been one of those things where, they said to me, could we make a movie instead of write a report? And I'm like, yes, you can, because we see all these informational movies that other teachers in other classrooms have made. So, yes, you can. Let's make a movie. So we did, last year we did iMovie on a digital storytelling on Native Americans, and they each chose a different aspect of Native American life. They worked together, and guess what? They wrote a script. They didn't think of it as writing or writing an essay. They wrote a script, and so it was writing. It was filled with facts. They had to choose pictures to go with that script, and they were like, this is amazing. They couldn't be more proud. It was so dynamic for them to be involved with movie making, and it gave them so much knowledge about the subject, probably more so than your traditional report or essay. You'll see that they have a voice in this presentation at the end. We made a little movie. So this is some of the actual, just captures that I did so that you could see what I've been doing, how I actually use it. But this is my fraction test that I literally gave on Monday. They took it online. But here's the transformation part. So we've been doing a lot of word problems with fractions. They said, well, could we write some of the problems for the test? I was like, Yes, you can. So shows a different level of understanding when they can actually write the problems for the test. So they sent it to me on Google Docs, shared it with me. I, of course, changed the numbers. Just a little smarter than they are sometimes. And that's what we had. And so I didn't write any of the questions. They wrote all of the questions for the test. So if they had a problem with one of the questions, it's not my fault. The bottom form is the Google Sheets. That's how all the data is collected. And so I get that every time a new response comes in, it just adds to it automatically. I get it, and I can look at it, and I can see where there's patterns. Are they missing, is everybody missing certain questions? And then I can easily grade the test without taking hundreds of papers home or losing papers or, you know, that whole thing. So this is some of what I do with, you can see the workbook page that I can capture online and then send it to them so they never forget their homework again. They were writing down their homework. Sometimes I just write it down, send it to them. They have to open it up and take a look at it and then do it. And there's very few excuses when they have it online. Sometimes I want to create my own homework and send it home, and so it's really easy. With the kid who's in Killington skiing, I've just been sending her documents after documents. She's like, okay, stop now. I'm skiing, but I can always communicate with her. So again, with graphic organizers, I've uploaded them to, they might have been in Word, they might have been in Google Docs, but you can easily upload anything and they respond. They much prefer to respond to this on Google Docs because then they have a running history. Then they have their own portfolio of what they did. So one of these is the current events response form. Every time they read a current event, we use News ELA. I have certain students present each week. They can go back and refresh themselves with what they read and then present. So it's been great, and that really came from them. This is some of like my homework help that I send with a video. When we started decimals, that was challenging. SmartBook capture, put it on a Google Doc, send it home, so they have a reference at home now for helping themselves. And so it's taken that, you know, they've become their own advocates where they don't have to ask for help and their mother doesn't have to do their homework with them. They become their own advocates where they know where to go when they're struggling with homework or they forgot what we did during the day. But that's been really amazing. And then this is some of the collaborative work that I talked about before with, we're doing a movie, we're doing an animated film in iStop Motion. So they started working on their script, and you can see each kid has their own color. It's very exciting. So they put in their lines that they want to say. They're working together, they're collaborating. And then I do book clubs, and that's all online too. And so they can, their discussion, they type together who said what, and you know, they can tell, you know, go back and talk about their discussion, and I can see it because they share all this work with me. And this is really one of those transformative moments. So when I started doing logs online, it was static. You know, they did their logs, they sent them to me, I looked at them, and then I was like, wait a minute, I can actually type in here, give them some feedback, and even ask them for clarification. So I always appear as the magenta. That's my signature color. They know when they see magenta, they're like, oh, Ms. Fishman's watching us. Here she is again. So, you know, I can ask questions, they can comment, and it's like a virtual conference. So every night, I can have a virtual conference with at least some of them. And I have to say, you know, I get my Gmail, it pops up on my phone. So sometimes I'm out to dinner with my husband. I'm like, I just have to comment on this one log. Hold on 1 second. He's like, although now he's doing it too. He's a third grade teacher, so he's like, I have a log too. So, you know, we do that a lot. And then, you know, I think for me, it's been great to try to figure out how to organize all this stuff that's sent to me. So I started creating folders for each one of my students, putting all their work in there. I have to tell you, when report cards come, I have like a portfolio everywhere I go of all of their work. So I can look at, oh, you know, I mean, I house some things in Google Sheets, they're great, but then I can go back and look at the quality of their work and where they've come and what they did early on in the year. And so I can go back and see everything that they've done. They also can go back and see everything that they've done, and their parents can see everything that they've done. And that's been like the really nice, powerful tool, because it's not sending stuff home anymore. It's like you can see what they did right online, and more so than if they took their notebook home or they had a test go home. And so the parents are seeing everything that is being done in class. And so that's been great. But they started to, I just want to talk one more about them. They started to organize their own drives, which was amazing. And they had some tips for me on organization. And they were like, you might want to think about doing it this way. It's more efficient this way. And, you know, I have to say, they, you know, have taken the technology and run with it. And I've learned so much from them because they live in this world. You know, I just started to visit it and plant myself in it, but they grew up in this world. And so when something's wrong on a laptop, they tell me, you have to go to settings, Ms. Fishman. You have to do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I'm learning as much from them. Well, I'm hoping they're learning a little more from me, but I'm learning a lot from them too.
Right. And I think one piece to add with this is what we were talking about this morning is it's really even honed in on their study skills and being able to not only organize and put everything in one folder, but now they're taking it one step further, making these subfolders, organizing it. What do I need to study for tonight? Or what form is Ms. Fishman going to throw at us tomorrow? So they're really taking ownership in terms of keeping organized, not only with paper, but now electronically.
And then this is Nearpod. This is our beyond Google. But you can create your own presentations. There's a lot of free presentations in there. There's paid presentations. You can upload anything from a PowerPoint in there. Upload video, websites, and on the side where it says reports, that's where I collect all of what they did when they did these Nearpods. And so it gives me a total, if there were multiple choice, which ones they got correct, which ones they didn't. If there was a write-in, I can read their essays. So it's really dynamic and interactive, and I still use it, but I use the Google Docs a lot now.
To start out with the Nearpod, that was one thing that we had started in your classroom. And the one thing that's so great about this tool, if anyone's ever used it, has anyone ever used Nearpod with their teachers in their classroom? It's great because it allows for, if a teacher's very hesitant to bring in mobile devices or having that whole different environment set up in their classroom, with Nearpod, it's teacher directed. So as they swipe on their mobile device, it also carries everyone along in the classroom with you. So kids aren't going ahead, they're not staying behind, they're right with you on task. And it's great for the teacher as they circulate to the room to make sure, okay, everyone's with me, and it just eases, you know, that nervousness of what are they doing when I'm up here and I'm talking to it? Are they on Amazon? Are they shopping? What are they doing? So it really keeps everyone together on that same pace. And then as Deb grew, she still uses Nearpod, but now it's a little more open in terms of using the classroom and sharing. But this was a great first step for that class to take.
I want to make one more point, because I think this is always the struggle with teachers of knowing what the kids are actually doing sometimes on the laptops and on the devices. And so a couple of weeks ago, Kaitlyn showed us all about revisionist history. I don't know if you guys know about that, but you can go on to a Google Doc and go to revisionist history and see everything that was ever written in the document. So now I've told my students, I know everything. I know where you are. I can look at your history online. I can look at your history in Google Docs. Don't do anything that you wouldn't want me to see. And so they're like, okay. So that's been really nice because it does hold them accountable to stay on task.
Right.
And so this is the video. We thought it would be more powerful to hear from the students as well as from us, but these are their voices.
We used to have to write everything by hand. Now we use Google Docs and we have it on the laptops. Before you had to remember everything, but now you could save it on the computer.
You had to find your paper, but now you can just look it up on Google Docs and find it.
Then we had to worry about our handwriting being neat, but now we have Google Docs, so it doesn't matter. Then we had to do morning work in our notebooks, but now we get to do it on Google Docs and get immediate feedback.
We used to have to hand out paper to get homework, but now we have to share on Google Docs.
Then we need to cut out and draw images, but now we can just cut and paste on Google Docs.
In the 3rd grade, for our free time, we draw in color. Now we play on Google Docs with our friends and we code. Before we had to use reading logs. We had to do our reading log in notebooks. Now we use Google Docs.
You used to have to look for a book to do research, but now you can search anything you want online and you can keep your notes on Google Docs. We used to need to know how to spell, but now we have spell check on Google Docs.
We used to use a paper, but now we can just send. We just use Google Docs and just send it to people. Before Google Apps, we had to take tests with paper and pencil, but now we take tests on Google Forms.
Before we had to bring home our math homework books, but now we get our math pages sent on Google Docs. Before we had to store our data in a notebook, but now we can store it in Google Sheets and make a chart. Before we used to use graphic organizers on paper, and now we can use them in Google Docs.
Before, when a student was absent, I had to send work home with a sibling, and now I can just send it to them on Google Docs.
Before, life was hard, but now with Google Apps, life is easier.
So as you can see, they wrote that, and you know, I was like, you still have to know how to spell. But I actually took that form, took that doc, and I took out the spelling so you could see the underline. That was spelled correctly.
So that's it. That's very
Questions? Any questions?
Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Oh.
You don't use Google Classroom.
I do. You know, I used it. You could see one of the clips in there. I used it a little bit, and now I'm using more Google Docs because it's easier for the kids to just save it that way. But we were using Google Classroom, but there were some kinks in it, so we're using Google Docs more.
We use more Google Classroom in our middle high school pages, where they found that the elementaries thought that it was a little between saving it in their drive and then having it in that classroom folder and then transferring it to the classroom was like an extra step for them. But more we see that changing in our middle high school, where they submit everything through their Google Classroom. So they'll get there.
Yeah. Next step. Any other questions?
Great.
Thank you.